Welcome back, wine family, to We Know Texas Vino, the show where we bring you the heart and soul stories behind Texas wines. I'm your host, Will, and today we're standing in a place where peace truly meets the vine. We're here in East Texas at Valle della Pace, is that correct?
Valle della Pace.
Valle della Pace.
Valle della Pace.
I don't have that kind of which means what?
It means Valley of the Peace.
Where passion, faith, and craftsmanship come together in every glass. So grab your favorite pour, sit back, and let's get into it. So today we're sitting here with Dr.
Don Clark.
Don Clark. I don't know why I keep wanting to say Bob. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, I may look like a Bob, but I'm actually a Don.
Well, Don, thank you for having us out here and hosting us out here today. I know one of our Texas wine lover writers, Ron Martin, came out here, and he literally said, I need to come out here and meet you. And, of course, if Ron tells me I have to do something, I pretty well have to do it.
Oh, very good.
But I read his article, and I found it very inspirational, considering I'm a very young winemaker myself. But, you know, let's start off something quick and simple. So what did you do before you started making wine?
Well, right before I started making wine, I was actually in ministry. I had worked with, we came up to this area because of Mercy Ships.
Okay.
And we worked with Mercy Ships for about 5 years. And then we started another nonprofit organization called Orphan Relief and Rescue. Mm-hmm. And they worked with orphans in West Africa.
Okay.
And so we helped them set up their organization. Mm-hmm. And I was in charge, basically the business person of the organization, took care of the books and did the financing and the business organization. Mm-hmm. And then, from there, we actually moved that organization. They were next door in the building next door. We moved that organization to the Seattle area because the co-founders were from the Seattle area and they wanted to move back there. So we moved the organization there. And then after being in Seattle for about a year, we came back here just to, we kept our property, but we came back here just for a visit. And one day I was walking around the property and I hear the Lord say vineyard. And I said, what? You want me to start a vineyard?
Well, you know, it's always funny when he talks to you like that. You're like, who are you talking to?
Yes. And is that really you, Lord? I got confirmation that that's exactly what he wanted us to do. So I had to tell the folks with Orphan Relief and Rescue that I had a new career, which was in the vineyard business. And so that was like in July. Mm-hmm. And by November, our vineyard was planted.
What year was
this was 2011.
Okay.
So in 2011, I heard vineyard in July, and then by November of that year, all of our vines were in, and our first growing season was 2012. Mm-hmm. So that's how we got into growing grapes. Now, before that time, I have a PhD in physical biochemistry. Okay. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry and the biotechnology industry mm-hmm. for a number of years, and then retired from that and went to work with Mercy Ships. Mm-hmm. So I had biochemistry experience. The winemaking came easy.
Right.
The vineyard
literally hand in hand with each other.
Yes, and the wine chemistry for the most part was pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. And then being in the biotechnology industry where we were doing cell culture and various things like that, you have to be meticulous. Cleanliness is of utmost importance.
Well, they do say cleanliness is next to godliness.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, I had to throw that one out there.
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, the winemaking came easy. After about a year or so, we had enough grapes out of one of our vineyards that I had to do something with them. And so I looked around for a crush facility, and the closest one was down in Houston, which was quite a ways. And after negotiating with them back and forth, it was going to cost me as much just to get my grapes crushed and processed as I might as well buy some equipment myself. And so that's what we did. We got some tanks and got a pump and started making wine. And the first wine that I made, it was our Blanc du Bois, and submitted it to a amateur winemakers competition, won a gold medal off of it. And I said, well, I guess we're in the winemaking business. And so that got us started in winemaking and expanding our wines. Our Blanc du Bois is called Blondie. And so we've expanded that now to about 22, 24 different products that we have to offer.
Nice. So what was the first varietals that you planted out here?
We had Blanc du Bois, Muscat Blanc, Shiraz, Sangiovese, and Ruby Cabernet.
Okay. So how many acres did you plant that first time around?
It was about 4 acres.
Did you regret
3.5 to 4.
That first growing season, did you regret it?
Yes. We were kind of warned that, you really ought to start off maybe with an acre. And, when you go to prune or train vines, and it's taking you 15 to 20 minutes per vine.
Right.
And you've got 2,800 vines, you can calculate how much time it's going to take to go through the field.
Yep.
So after getting through one row of 300 feet, you say, well, I got something accomplished. And then you look around and say, I've got 41 more rows like this. So,
it's in this story right here, just this alone, I hear this all too often. But sometimes you have to jump in head first. You can't just dip your toe into it and then test the water. Sometimes you just got to jump in, freeze for a few moments, and then come on up. But you know what? You grew from that. You learned from that, You learn the hard way how to manage your vineyard in the quickest way possible.
Yes, we did. And it was, we actually, our Blanc du Bois vineyard, we had to retrain that 3 different years because we had it as a TSP, but it was growing too wild and it needed more trellis space. So we wound up changing it to a Geneva double curtain. And before we actually got it into a manageable form, the other ones were TSP, and that wasn't too bad.
Right.
But living in East Texas, everything and anything can attack a vineyard. That's why most of the vineyards, the larger vineyards, are in high plains, deserty areas because you don't get the mold and the mildew and the insects pressure that we have here. Yeah. So it's a lot harder to manage a vineyard here than it is out in West Texas. But it was, it was a lot of work initially. It's still a lot of work, but I've got help. Now. Back then, it was just my wife and I and some friends. And the friends, for whatever reason, they would work maybe for a day or for half a day, and then we wouldn't see them anymore.
Let's think about why.
No, some would come back and help, but it's a vineyard is not.
It's not. It's for the faint of heart.
No, it's not. And then you don't have the appropriate equipment, and just with the insect and the mold pressure that we have here, disease pressure that we have here, you better have a good sprayer.
Yep.
So first I had to get a tractor. Then I had to get a sprayer. And we experimented with different type of sprayers. And then you have to go to an air blast sprayer to get the insecticide or the fungicide into the plant where the, behind the leaves and everything. So all of that is very, very steep learning curve. And when I started the vineyard, I said, hey, it's going to take me 5 years to learn how to do this, and it did.
Well, I took classes up in Grayson College, and the very first day when they were talking about the vineyard part of it, they said, we're here to take the romance out of growing grapes.
Yes. Yeah, there is. It's just hard work.
It's just hard work. There is no romance in it whatsoever.
Yeah, and when it comes to picking the grapes, guess what month you have to pick the grapes?
Yeah, it's the hottest time of the year.
It's not in the cool of the fall. It's the hottest time in the year. So you're out there, it could be 95, 100 degrees.
Yep.
You're picking grapes, and it's like, oh, man, I don't know. This is not fun.
I don't know if it's worth it anymore.
Yeah.
But, honestly, have harvest, gone from harvest to production to bottle. There's a sense of pride when it comes to that. And you sit there and you think about all from the growing season and all through the harvest season and then into production. And you look at your glass and you're like, you know what? Yes, it was hard work. Yes, I almost died like 9 times out there. But you know what? It's worth every bit of it. And you tell yourself, I wouldn't give it up for anything else.
Yeah, no, well, I don't know.
There might be a couple of instances.
Yeah, when the Lord said vineyard, I didn't realize how much work it was going to be. But yes, you're right. There is a lot of pride in what we do, a lot of satisfaction. And when you finally get to that finished product, which it's not a matter of just crushing your grapes, getting the grape juice, fermenting it and saying, okay, that's it.
Right.
I mean, we do, here at Valle della Pace, we do a number of tasting trials. Yep. So you got to get the pH right. You got to get other parameters, for a particular wine, correct. It has to be fermented at the right temperature. Yep. If you ferment a white too hot, you lose all of the bright, flavors in it. If you ferment a red too cold, then you're not going to get the color out of it. So, I mean, there's a big difference in winemaking techniques depending on the grape that you are dealing with at the time. And
it's a lot of people who don't know the production side. They just think you just throw it in the thing, throw some yeast on it, call it a day. Well, no, there's a line you have to walk. If you walk, like Mr. Miyagi says, if you walk on the right side of the road, you're safe. You walk on the left side of the road, you're safe. But you walk in the middle, you're not safe. And so you've got to be on that right side, to make sure everything's perfect. And one of the things I like to do, because like I said earlier when we first started talking, I work at a tasting room myself. And I like to help educate people. I have to teach them a little bit about winemaking process. And when I tell them about this whole how everything has to be in the right temperature and stuff, they look at me like, oh, so it's just not simply just putting some grapes in a jug and throwing yeast on it. I'm like, no.
Yeah, no. That's a good way to get vinegar.
Yeah, very good way to get vinegar. Yes, very good way. So you found this property. You got your nice vineyard going. You got your grapes going. How did you come up with a name?
Well, actually, the time between July of 2011 and November, the name just came to me.
Yeah.
Valle della Pace, Valley of the Peace. We live in Garden Valley, so that's where the valley comes from.
Okay.
And, we are very much a Christian ministry. I do Bible studies and very involved with our church. We do prison ministry, my wife and I. And so, it's really God's peace. When people come here, we want them to experience God's peace.
Right.
And so that's where the name came from.
Nice. I really like that. What I find fascinating about wine, and I tell a lot of people this, is that, wine brings people together. It brings people together in different ways that you don't find going to a bar. In fact, we actually was talking about this the other day with some friends, that when you go to a bar, they got music blaring really loud and it's boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
basing around, and you can't talk to each other like this. But when you come to a winery, music's down low, it's, whatever that they want to play, and you're able to have a conversation like we're doing right now. And I've said a lot of times you'll make friends in a winery because you'll sit here and you're not going to be talking, and all of a sudden there's somebody sitting next to me and they're talking about something, and I turn and look to them and I'm like, I did X, Y, Z also, or you find out they're from the same area you're from or whatever, and next thing you know, you made a new friendship, and people don't realize that wine actually brings people together. We can even talk about, in scripture also, he turned water to wine at a party, he brought people together. But I try to teach that to people. Wine is not something you just down, you enjoy it, you sip
Right.
it, and you share it with your friends. It's like breaking bread. You share it with your friends and your neighbors.
Yeah, it's definitely for relationship building, and like any good tasting room or any good winery, they want people to come to their facility and have an experience.
Yeah.
You want to have an enjoyable experience. You want to have pleasant surroundings and everything. You want to get to know. You want to bring your friends, get to know them a little bit, but you want to make new friends.
Yeah.
We do harvest host, and I know a lot of wineries do harvest host. And one of the things that we consistently get from our harvest host guests is how friendly we are, how engaging we are in conversation. These are retired people,
Right.
For the most part. And they want an experience, and we hope to provide that for them.
Oh yeah, and I think that's probably the number one thing that I hear from a lot of people that come in. They want an experience. I've been to a lot of different tasting rooms, and some people will just walk up, pour your glass, say this tastes like cherries, and walk away. Won't be engaging and all like that. And I think a lot of people they crave that experience that you give them. Sit there and let's talk about your wine, and let's talk about the winemaking process, and get engaged with them. I've been accused sometimes I talk too much. In fact, actually, a funny story is one of the girls I work with. We close at 9:00, and at 9:15, she looks at me. She goes, "Will, I need you to come over here and clean the bathrooms." I'm like, "Are you trying to tell me to shut up?"
Yes. That's what makes a good tasting host is someone that can engage folks in conversation.
100%. So you got your grapes growing. Now you got your little tasting room going on here. So was this building already here on the property when you found it, or
the building was here? It was actually a sound studio for a Christian music group at one point in time called Harvest.
Okay.
And so we had to completely remodel this whole building. We initially turned it into an apartment, but then we turned it into a tasting room. And we first made our wines in here, and we did that for a number of years before we built our new facility that we have, our new building. And it was tough because every time we're doing winemaking activities, we're taking out tables and chairs, and our filling room was here, our winemaking room was here. We're transferring wine from one tank to another, and you barely have enough room to walk around, but you do what you have to do in order to get some product in order to sell. But actually in 24, we finally started to build a new building. And we have about a 4,000 square foot building. About 3,000 of that is a winemaking production area with cool rooms and a freezer and storage areas and things like that. And when we moved into that, I said, "Man, how did we do this without this facility?"
I think when everybody starts out, every time I talk to everybody that has to start, you got to start small. You got to start somewhere. And everybody says the exact same thing. Where they start out very small, they have to accommodate where they have to, and then they get their own little, finally their own production room. They're like, how do we do this whole time?
Yeah, exactly. Well, our 1,000-gallon tanks were outside. They were covered, but still, you got the dust and everything. Right. And every time you go to use the tanks, you're scrubbing them down and everything. And it was just impossible to keep them clean on the outside. They were clean on the inside, but they were not so clean on the outside.
Being dirty on the outside causes issues on the inside, too.
It can, if you're not careful when you open a valve or open a port or something, and you get, some dust and bacteria in the tank. I mean, that's 1,000 gallons of wine that, has been spoiled. Yeah, you don't want to make that mistake ever.
Right. So right now, how many different wines, and we'll talk about the meads here in just a second, because it fascinates me. You're one of the few wineries that I've been to offer meads as well. So we'll talk about that in just a second. So right now, with your wine wise, how many different wines do y'all offer? How to get you on one that's
yeah, I don't know. We have to look at the menu.
Off the top of your head.
Yeah, I think we have something like maybe 16 or 18 different types of wines. Okay. I mean, some of them are variations on the same.
Right.
For example, our Blanc de Bois, our flagship, product, which we call Blondie. We make a port out of it. We make a white port. And that's of course, we can't call it port, but it's a port-style wine. And it's got a lot of vanilla flavors and a lot of, it almost tastes like honey. I mean, it's got some very unique flavors. But I mean, we have a Ruby Cabernet, which we made from our Ruby Cabernet grapes. Okay. We have a Sangiovese. We've got a Shiraz, a couple of different Shirazes. We've got a Shiraz Reserve, as well as just your standard Shiraz. We got Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon. I mean, nice. So we have. If somebody wants to come and taste a lot of different wines and have an experience to say, okay, I wonder what this type of wine tastes like. We have a lot to offer in that category.
Yeah, and I was looking at your menu, and y'all have a lot to offer, and I was really impressed by that. Considering how small you are, because a lot of small ones don't want to have a whole big offer, because that means more overhead, stuff like that. But, from what I've already tried, so I've done the Shiraz Syrah, I've done the Alicante Boucher, and then my folks did some of the ports and the meads, and I'm like, I was blown away. So how did the mead part come in play then? I mean, you're doing wine and stuff like that, so how did you get into the mead part of it?
Well, we started offering honey as an example, as a product to sell, and so we got to talking to the honey supplier, and they had enough honey that we could start making some mead with. So we built a relationship with them. Okay. Honey Apple Farms is the honey producer, and they had a lot of different types of honey, from clover to forest to other types, and so some of them make very good mead with, and so my son actually was interested in the mead making. I said, well, let's get some honey and start making mead and see how we do, and so that got us started with our first standard mead. The first meads that we made were kind of in the winemaking style. Okay. So they're not your heavy or sweet meads. Right. Now, since that time, we do have a traditional mead, which is more made with the traditional honey that would be used for making mead, and made in the mead making style. So we have one of those that we offer. And we also have a couple of now port-style meads, which I think is quite unique in the mead family. So yes, we are kind of a meadery. We're a winery, and eventually, as soon as we get federal approval, will be a distillery
Nice.
as well. So
Yeah, you got to offer everything for everybody, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of the Texas wineries are going that path because you got wives that brings their husband in and the husband doesn't want to drink wine and they ask, well, do you have beer? And we're like, no, we don't. But if you offer beer or spirits now they have more reason to come more often.
right, exactly.
Now you have more to offer. That's pretty awesome. I love that how a lot of these little wineries are going into that direction now, you know?
Yeah.
Honestly, I never drank a mead until today.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, and to be honest with you, the meads that I did taste from Europe, I'm saying, I don't know if I'm very crazy about these, but I like our meads.
Really?
I mean, Josh did a great job.
Yeah,
he does a great job with them. And we have we have a blueberry mead and a cherry mead.
Uh-huh.
And those are made not only with honey, but we do take blueberries and put it in during the fermentation process.
Okay.
With blueberries or cherries.
Okay, that's what I was fixing to ask. How do y'all infuse the taste of the fruit into the mead? Because I know I've been, okay, so my day job, I'm an engineer, okay? So I'll read a lot, okay?
Uh-huh.
And so I'll read about making mead, and it said pretty well bring the water up to not a boil, just to a heat that will make the honey just dissolve.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, so do you ferment your mead and then you put your flavoring in afterwards? Or during the heating process, do you add your fruit to that process so it kind of breaks it down almost inside of that? I've always been fascinated about that.
Yeah,
you know?
and there's several ways of doing it. I mean, it's just like winemaking. How do you add flavors to wine? Because we do have flavored wines as well. Our peaches, for example, is our Blanc de Bois with peach flavoring.
Oh.
But that peach flavoring is added after the wine is made, and we have a good base wine. Then we flavor it with a particular type of peach flavor. But with the meads, we actually put the fruit in with the diluted honey.
Okay.
And so if we're shooting, if our target is, let's say, 13% alcohol, then you raise your sugar, or in the case of honey, you're diluting the honey to the appropriate sugar level in order to get the alcohol level that you're looking for. But to get the fruit infused, we actually ferment the fruit in with the honey.
Interesting. We'll definitely have a chat after this a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
So, of all so everything you have, all your wines here are 100% estate, or do you bring in from the hill country, the high plains?
Yes. No, they're not. We don't have enough grapes to, we don't have Cabernet or Chardonnay. So it depends on the wine.
Okay.
We do, our Alianico, for example, is from the high plains.
Okay.
We do have a couple of California wines. Not wines, but our grape, the Sangiovese, the large quantity of Sangiovese that we actually got from the Lido Valley in California. And then our Cabernet came from California as well. Pinot Grigio actually came from Washington State. So, and a lot of wineries are doing that because right now the Texas industry doesn't grow enough grapes to satisfy all the wineries, and they can't grow certain varietals.
Right.
So if you want that particular varietal, you got to look elsewhere.
Right. That's understandable. I mean, you got to do what you have to do to meet your demand of people coming in.
Yes.
So yeah, that's understandable. I mean, I know there's a lot of wineries that do that. They still offer the Texas stuff, but they supplement from other parts.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, of all the grapes that you have and all the wines you make, which one's your favorite one to work with? Like, every time you get it and you're excited, you're like, this is what I'm going to make here.
Well, the Blondie, or Blanc de Bois, is one of my favorite wines.
Okay.
And the reason, obviously it's a white wine, but it's a delicate white wine.
Okay.
And if you make it correctly, or if you make it like we make it, we actually pick the grapes before they're completely ripe, so we get the right acidity. So it's got to have a pretty low acidity, and it brings out some of the aromatic flavors of that grape.
Okay.
And it makes an excellent wine. I do chicken piccata. I'm half Italian, so that's where the name came
you're
from.
speaking my love language now.
So I make a chicken piccata where the butter and wine sauce is made with our Blanc de Bois, and then you serve the Blanc de Bois with that particular dish, and it's to die for. It is really, really good.
I love making chicken piccata also. I actually do a chicken piccata risotto, excuse me, and I like to take the capers while I'm sauteing my onions and garlic for my risotto and my rice. I'll throw the capers in it also so they'll pop open and release that flavor in there.
Okay.
Give that a shot one day.
All right. That sounds good.
And I like to deglaze. I like a really high acidity wine to deglaze my pan with when I do my risotto, but I've never thought about doing it with Blanc de Bois. I may have to try that now.
Yeah. No, it makes a very nice wine. It's a delicate wine. I mean, and it does not go with any smoky cheese, but non-smoky.
Right.
The cheese can overpower the wine pretty well. But that's one of my favorite wines, and. We make a whiskey barreled Cabernet Sauvignon. That is also really good, and it brings in some of the whiskey flavors from the whiskey barrel. So we get the aged whiskey barrel that had whiskey in it, and we use that for aging the wine. And so you got the nice flavors from the Cabernet Sauvignon, blending with the whiskey flavors, and the difference between the base Cabernet Sauvignon and the whiskey barrel is like night and day. Right. You say, okay, if I had a glass of just the regular cab and I had a whiskey barrel cab, I'm going for the whiskey barrel cab. It was smoother. It was just the flavor. It had more complexity to it.
Oh yeah. So, which wine is your favorite wine, but you hate working with the grape because it's so finicky?
Oh, gee whiz, there were two, actually.
Okay.
So we make one of our popular wine is called Milizioso, which means blackberry in Italian, but it's Mora. I'm sorry, it's called Mora. It's our blackberry flavored wine.
Okay.
The base wine is Lamanto.
Okay.
And so the first batch of Lamanto I got, it's very jammy. So it's hard to punch down. It is just really thick. It's almost impossible to filter. You got to add, enzymes and stuff in order to break down the pectin, and it's high in pectin, and it's very difficult to work with.
Okay.
But it made a very berry wine.
Okay.
And so I said, I bet if we just add a little bit of blackberry flavor to this, it'll be a nice wine and people will enjoy it. And it makes a fantastic summer wine.
Interesting.
It's very, very berry flavored. It would go fantastic on vanilla ice cream, and just put, because it is a little sweet, but you don't taste the sweetness because the base product, if you will, is a little bitter.
Right.
And so you're adding the sugar to it to kind of blend it out.
Right.
And I don't like very sweet wine, so we only add enough sugar to make it a nice, palatable, smooth wine.
Oh, okay.
And so that one was very difficult in the processing to work with. Another grape that not so much in the winemaking area as far as fermentation and that type of stuff was our Albarino. Okay, it's a white Spanish grape, and We got that, fermented it. I'm at pH 4. Well, this is a white wine. Right. You're not going to be at pH 4 for a white wine. Right. You're hardly going to be at that pH for a red wine.
Yeah, you'll be sucking it like a Sour Patch Kid.
Yes. And so now I had a winemaking challenge, because how do you bring a pH 4 wine down to at least pH 3.3? Because that was my target, pH for the wine. That's a long way to go. And so typically in winemaking, the traditional way you acidify a wine is you add tartaric acid. Right. Well, my total acid level was already high. Right. Whenever I added any tartaric acid, that pH wasn't budging. Yeah. So I'm saying, okay, I got a chemistry problem here. What's going on? So I finally figured out that, hey, I got a lot of potassium in this. Okay. And so the tartaric acid that's naturally, the tartaric acid and citric acid that's naturally in the wines is there as potassium and potassium tartrate and potassium citrate. And so I'm not gonna lower the pH, because that was acting like a base, and it was acting like a buffer. Right. So the wine wasn't buffering. So I said, okay, how am I going to pull out? I got to pull out the calcium, the potassium, from the product. Well, being a chemist, and one of my chemistry careers was working with Roman Haas that makes ion exchange resins. So I said, well, I'll just use an ion exchange resin and pull out the potassium and get to the right pH. Mm-hmm. So I did all kinds of bench trials with various levels of ion exchange, resins and everything. And finally was able to get the pH to where I wanted it, to get the flavors where I wanted it. And now we have a nice wine. But I spent hours and hours in a lot of lab trials just trying to figure out, how am I going to get this pH down? Wow.
I bet you lost it. Well, you probably did that within a couple of days, or was it a whole day when you tried to figure out that potassium that was causing the problem?
Oh, it took weeks.
Weeks? I bet you didn't sleep those weeks.
It took weeks. I would do some trials, and I'd do some calculations, and I'd do some more trials and calculations. How does this taste? That doesn't taste right. What's the pH? Anyway, it was a challenge, but we have a nice Albarino wine out of it now.
Nice. I love hearing stories about that, because you always, when you have a stubborn wine, let's just call it that, a stubborn wine, and you want to get it to where you want to, and you can't figure it out, you sit there and you try and test, and finally you get it to not be so stubborn, and then all of a sudden you have this most amazing product afterwards. And then you've done several things at this point. One is you probably got older really fast, but you figured out another way of making wine.
Yeah.
Because, you may not see this ever again, and all of a sudden one day it pops up, and you're like, oh, you know what? I had this issue once before. Let's go check my potassium, or check whatever. And you find out, it's always, one thing I do love about wine, and it goes in hand in hand with what I do, is every year when you make wine, it's a learning process. There's never 2 years that are exactly the same. Because, your weather, let's just call it terroir, it's always going to be different every year. So because of that, your grapes are going to be different every year, and you have to play with each year.
Yeah. If you think you have a formula down for that particular type of grape, you are
mistakenly wrong.
you are wrong.
And I think a lot of people, and that's a big misconception of people who don't make wine. They think that you have a recipe and you go out here and you grab your grapes, you put them in the production room, you add your yeast, and you add your SO2, your pH to it, your tartaric acid, and you make your wine. And I was like, no, you don't do that, because one year your tartaric acid, or your pH, I keep saying tartaric acid, I don't know why. Your pH or your grapes one year may be too low, and you got to bring them up. and then you may have put too much in by accident. I've done that before.
Yeah,
and then you got to bring it back down.
Yeah, that's a problem.
or your SO2, it's too low. You got to bring it up or bring it back down. And I said, you got to sit and test it, and you can't just like crush it, ferment it, test it, and leave it alone. You have to test it throughout different stages of the aging process because it will change. And in my case, one month I tested it, and the next month I went to test it, and man, it crashed. I started freaking out. I was like, what do I need to do? So I started calling up on my mentors, and they said, don't freak out. It's going to happen. Just add a little bit of stuff to it at a time. Don't do it all at once and bring it up to your normal level.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, because they said something went crazy and it just crashed it all, and you just have to fix it up.
Yep.
So it's a learning process, and that's why I love doing this show, is because people learn from this. They may not go out and make wine, but they'll understand better now how wine is made.
Yes. Yeah. And we're not making the 1 million gallon tanks. That's a lot of wine. If you spoil that, you're spoiling a lot.
Yeah.
Most of our batches, especially these days, are in the 200 and 300 gallon range. We do have 1,000-gallon tanks, but we're making about 200 to 300 gallons at a time, and that allows you to do some experimentation with the wine that you can't do if you've got the 1,000-gallon tank, or if you've got the especially the 1 million-gallon tank, or the 5,000 gallon, whatever. You can't experiment with it. So ours is really handcrafted. Right. It's a handcrafted wine. Like I said in the beginning, we do a lot of tasting trials, and you can get the chemistry right, but it still doesn't taste right.
Right.
So you got to manipulate the chemistry sometimes in order to get the taste the way that particular wine needs to be, right, to make a nice, pleasant wine.
Yeah. And that's the fun part about doing this. Honestly, the fun part is all the hard blood, sweat, and tears, and you get the wine bottled, and you get it labeled, and you put it on your shelf, and you open that first bottle of that customer, and they pour it, and they put a smile on your face. That right there is the reward.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's the 100% reward. So is there anything else that you want to talk about? Is there something I missed that you really want to talk about? Because this is going to go out so this podcast is heard in 90 different countries.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So is there anything that you want to talk about that I may not have hit on or we've discussed?
Well, as I mentioned a little earlier, we are in the process of getting our distiller's license. Mm-hmm. So the first couple of products that we're going to have from that is limoncello. Because we're Italian, I'm half Italian. The name is Italian.
Right.
Limoncello. We have to make a limoncello, so we have made a limoncello. As a matter of fact,
okay.
We have 2 versions of the limoncello that are ready to go and ready to be bottled, but we got to get our permits in order first, and then we'll have a couple of brandies as well. So we were hoping to have that done by the end of the year last year, but you know what? The government shut down for a whole month or so.
Yep.
And that messed up the whole system.
Yep. Messes everybody's plans.
Yeah, so it has pushed us back quite a bit, but I do have the regulators now working on our application.
Nice. Okay.
So that should happen relatively soon. So that will give us, those extra products, like you said. If a guy comes in, limoncello is going to be very, very popular with some gals.
Oh yeah.
Probably not so much with the guys, but
I don't know. I love me some limoncello. You can have a lemon drop martini. We're good. Yeah. Call it a day.
But it'll be a unique product. What we like to do here at Valle della Pace is be at kind of the cutting edge of not only technology, but in the winemaking and in coming up with products that, let's say, our neighbors don't have.
Right.
And that helps when people come in. They often say, "Well, what do you got new?" People they want something new.
Right.
They want something different. And so that's what we hope to provide. Now, that does add a whole lot of overhead because with every product, you've got, label approvals from the TTB as well as the TABC, the federal government, the state government. You got to get the labels printed. That adds an expense. You got different bottles, so you are adding cost. But we think that adds value to the customer and to the customer's experience coming in to Valle della Pace, which makes us different than, maybe a winery that only has a couple of products to offer.
Yeah. And, and I was just sitting here when you were talking about this. So where you're at right now, you're in a very small community. Do the people that's in this area, they know about you really well and they visit quite a bit, or I don't want to say it frowned upon, because I know that, and I'll give you a quick story. One of the wineries over in North Texas, he's a Seventh-day Adventist pastor. And so his patrician kind of frowned on him a little bit for doing this.
Oh, sure.
But when we were coming in, we saw a lot of Christian communities out in this area.
Yeah.
Are you frowned upon, or are you accepted by them?
No, we're pretty accepted,
I mean, it's a touchy subject, but
obviously not everybody's going to drink wine.
Yeah.
And not going to drink alcohol, and that's fine. But we really don't get any negative, feelings. It's from the community. It's like, man, we're glad you're here.
That's awesome,
because we do offer other things besides wine if they want to come, and we have events. I mean, we do a bring your own meat event, for example, once a month. And people can come, you bring your steak or your chicken or whatever it is that you want to barbecue. We set out the barbecues. We offer salad and baked potatoes and all the fixings. And people can come, enjoy the evening, listen to some music, and have a good time. So we're adding value to the community from that point of view as well.
That's cool. And every winery has to do something to stick out from other wineries. You just can't open them and say, here we are. You got to do different events, like I know some places will do a cigar and wine pairing, or, a charcuterie class, or actually one did a pottery making class. I was like, really?
Yeah, how does that fit in with wine? Unless you're going to put your wine in the pot once you made it.
Or if they make it a small amphora, unless they make a small amphora.
Exactly. We're going back to Roman times now.
True story. I actually want to do the old style amphoras, where I want to make wine in the old amphoras, buried in the ground, and actually use the beeswax to cover it. I think that would be great to do that. It'd be different.
Oh, very much so. And it would be interesting to see the difference in flavor of wine stored in that, because you're going to get obviously some minerality from the clay and the pots out of that. You'll definitely have a different type of wine.
Oh yeah, and I know there's a lot of winemakers that use like concrete.
Yeah, concrete tanks.
To me, and this is just me, I feel this way. Concrete is man-made. I want to do clay. Clay is from the earth, and I don't know. That's just me.
Yes, well, that'd be a unique product for sure.
Definitely, do it old world, the way they did it, don't do any, obviously you got to keep it sanitized and all that, but, for the most part, do it old world, see what happens, Yeah.
Well, we thought about, because there are meads that are in like a ceramic bottle. And we said, man, it'd be great to put our mead in there, until we found, discovered what the cost of the bottle was. And then we're saying, nobody's going to buy this.
Never mind.
Here's a $100 bottle of mead,
Well, one of the things I find out a lot of these wineries do is they learn how to do things on their own. I guess you would get somebody out there, start making the old do the party wheel, make your own bottles.
Yeah. Well, we do a lot on our own, but that's you'd be surprised how many skills it requires, especially if you're doing the vineyard and you're doing winemaking and you're doing bottling and you're doing labeling and you're doing advertising and you're doing, it's, you are a business and it just, the number of different skills that you need in order to run it successfully, it just keeps growing, it seems, by the day.
Oh yeah, you find out one day you're like an electrician, and the next day, as if we pulled in, you had to be a plumber today.
Yeah, I was a plumber.
So you got to become new things every day. So,
right.
Well, Don, where can people find y'all at your physical location and also online?
Okay, yeah, our website is valledelapace.com, VALLEDELLAPACE.com, Valle della Pace. And we're located about 3.5 miles kind of northwest from I-20, exit 548, which is Highway 110. And we're pretty convenient from the interstate. So if you're coming to Tyler or coming from Shreveport, coming from Dallas, it's easy to get to us.
Yeah,
and
I actually saw your blue sign also on 20. I think.
Yeah, we have a little sign out by the highway on Interstate 20. It's not a big sign.
Right.
We used to have a big sign, but anyway, we're pretty easy to find. Go to our website. We're on Facebook. Like us on Facebook. We post most of our events on Facebook. Well, not post most. We post all of them on Facebook. We have Eventbrite page as well. We're pretty easy to find.
Nice. Well, I really enjoy this conversation because it's always interesting to get to talk to different winemakers and their love and their passion for this little juice right here. And it's always a breath of fresh air getting to talk to different people and get to hear their perspective of winemaking and how they love it and the times they hate it and everything in between and the reward that comes from it. So I definitely appreciate your time with us today. Excuse me. We're going to take a little quick 5-minute break, and we're going to come back and we're going to do a little bit of wine education, like a 10-minute segment, all right? And we're going to talk about different terminologies about wine and how wines are described. So y'all sit back, refill your glasses, and we'll be right back in just a second.
Hi, this is Eric, buyer of Old Vine, Texas, your premier Texas wine tasting room in DFW, featuring 100% Texas wineries from all over the state. We are located at 403 East Broad Street in Mansfield, Texas, inside of the Ancora Event Center. We have weekly tastings, charcuterie, pizza, plenty of wines by the glass, and live music. Our wine club brings you an extended taste of Texas and other great perks. You can visit our website at oldvinetexas.com to sign up for our newsletter, check our open hours, and see special events and classes and more. Or you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Old Vine, Texas. We'll see you soon.
Welcome back, everybody, to We Know Texas Vino. We are here with Don at Valle della Pace.
Valle della Pace. Valle della Pace.
You know, it took me like 12 times to get Pasaro correct, and I think I just messed it up just then.
Yeah. Well, it's PACE obviously is, in Spanish, it's pace, which means peace.
Right.
And it means peace in Italian too, but it's pace.
Pace.
It's more of a CH sound than the C sound.
Okay. And I'm going to have to sit back and I'm going to have to learn how to say this over and over again, because I always tell people, if they're going to certain areas, go visit certain wineries. And I always want to make sure to say the name properly. So when I sit down and edit this, I'm going to just keep going over and over and over again until I say it correctly.
There you go.
So in this segment of the podcast, everybody loves the education part because, they're always wanting to learn a little bit more about wine, and I don't like to bash California, but they made wine kind of pretentious and snobbery, and so a lot of people are really afraid to approach a winery and talk about wine or understand terminology. And so one of the things that came across to me this last week in the tasting room is someone asked me, why do you call wine chewy? And I'm like, I could tell you that all day long, But to kind of give you a little bit more understanding, I think we need to go into, I won't say completely in depth, but just a little bit in depth. So I had a whole list here of wine description tasting, and we're going to start with the top 4. So the first one we're going to talk about is bite, and this is what their definition of bite is, and then we'll compare our notes with their definition. So bite means marked degree of acidity or tannins. Acid grip on the finish should be more like a zestful tang and tolerable only in a rich, full-bodied wine. So
there you go.
So this is the definition of it. So now let's talk about real world definition.
Right. And I would, when you talk about bite, I would say, okay, that definitely has to do with acidity. But an astringent wine, if something is astringent, that's not one of on your list, but astringent one actually has to do with the tannins.
Okay.
And what a high tannin wine kind of feels dry in your mouth is because the tannins are actually binding with the saliva in your mouth, and it pulls those things together, and your mouth kind of dries out because you don't have the saliva in it anymore. That's astringent.
Right.
A bite, I would say, is more of an acidic type of experience, and I think if folks would taste our wines, a lot of people shy away from white wines because they say, "Man, that has a bite to it." It's because of the acidity.
Yeah.
But our wines are smooth.
Right.
And so I said, well, I only like red wines. I said, well, try this wine. Yeah. Try this white wine. And they said, oh, it's pleasant.
Yeah.
If a wine has that characteristic of having a bite, how much are you going to drink of it?
Right.
I mean, are you going to go to it very often?
Well, no, you won't. You don't. Some people don't like that acidity.
Yeah, they don't like it.
I mean, I personally, I love that acidity, especially when it's not like overbearing acidity.
Yes.
And when there's such thing as an over the top, like a Picpoul Blanc. It's very acidic. In fact, that's where the name came from, is lip stinger or stinging lips, because that acidity level is really high. But at a manageable level, it's really good wine.
Yeah, and it obviously lemon juice, or the citrus, you do get some citrus flavor, especially out of the Blanc de Bois. It's got some citrus.
Right.
But and that can be pleasant, and you're expecting it.
Right.
But when you're not expecting it, that's when, you kind of back off and say, well, this may be a little overpowering here.
Which, ironically, that actually went right into the bitter part of it also. So, you're talking about the white wines, a little bit of bite, a little bitter, because of the acidity level that's inside of it. The definition they give us here is one of the 4 basic tastes. Consider a fault in the bitterness dominates the flavor of aftertaste. A trace of sweetness in wines may complement the flavors in a young red wine. It can be a warning signal, as bitterness does not always dissipate with age. A fine, mature wine should not be bitter on the palate.
Right.
So it kind of goes to what we're talking about with white wines, with the little bite, because, there is that, when there's too much acid in it, it's bitter. It's like it hits you right here in the back of your throat. It's kind of like putting a whole bunch of Sour Patch Kids in your mouth.
Yep. And the bitterness, one of our wines, which is our Moscato, for example, was made with our Blanc, with our Muscat Blanc, and the Muscat grape is bitter. And if you left it like that, the reason why Moscatos are sweet is because you're overcoming the natural bitterness in the grape. Yep. So some grapes are naturally bitter. Yep. And a lot of your natural flavors are bitter on their own. And so you have to add some sugar in order to mellow it out. And that's what we do with our Moscato and some of the other wines.
Yeah, and I've drank some Moscatos and I'm like, ooh, wow, this is too much in here.
Sometimes people go overboard. They're looking, and we've had people come in and say, well, I like sweet wines. Okay, so we serve them our Moscato or one of our other sweeter wines. And they said, I don't know, this is not sweet enough. And,
and then you kind of just like bow your head.
Well, we're not the place for you because we're not going to, we're not going to make a product that tastes like syrup.
Right.
I mean, we're going to make a well-balanced wine. And
that's respectable right there, because I mean, it's, you got to walk that fine line again. You got to make something that people will enjoy, but at the same time, you need to be able to enjoy it too, because it's your product. If you can't enjoy it, why make it?
Well, and I don't release anything that I don't approve of.
There you go.
So if I don't like it, it doesn't get put on the shelf.
Right. So we got two more here. The next one is buttery, and this is a lot of times referred to Chardonnays.
Yep.
So it refers to both flavor and texture of the mouthfeel, common among Chardonnays.
Yep.
Now, I'm gonna preface this one for myself. I'm not a big fan of Chardonnays that taste like butter. I don't want to put a stick of butter in my mouth. If I wanted that, I would have gone home and do that and let my cholesterol shoot up.
Right. Yes. So the buttery flavor, buttery vanilla kind of flavor, actually comes from the oak.
Right.
The natural oak, not burnt oak, because that would give you different flavors, but they typically age a Chardonnay, and we did too, in neutral oak, not unburnt oak, if you will. And that pulls out the vanilla flavors and some of the buttery notes. Now, you can go too far and leave it in there too long.
Right.
Or it can be a virgin barrel, and which just means that the oak has never been used with a wine before, and that can pull out too much flavor.
Right.
And so you really have to monitor the flavors when you start oaking a product, because you can go too far and it could be too smoky as far as the red is concerned, or it can be too buttery as far as the Chardonnay is concerned. Now, we do offer a Chardonnay, and our Chardonnay is not, it's got some vanilla flavor but it's not overly buttery.
Okay. I might have to give it a shot. There's two Chardonnays in Texas that I drink from, because they don't believe in buttery or oaking their Chardonnays at all. And I freaking love them. Right. Actually, I actually worked in the vineyard on one of them, and the trellis is like 6 feet tall, and the vineyard manager is only like 5 foot. So she was always making me one work on the top of it.
Yeah, get those grapes up there. Don't leave those.
All right, and so our last one we're going to talk about, and I brought this up at the very beginning, is chewy. A description: rich, heavy, tannic wines that are full-bodied. Now, the two varietals that I come to my mind right away that are always, for me, been chewy: Merlot and Tannat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tannat would be very chewy, and it's usually a very deep red wine. It's going to have a lot of tannins in it, which means you better age that wine a good, long distance for a good period of time, because the more tannins that you have, it's going to be astringent if you don't age it long enough. And so you got to have the color compounds, the anthocyanins, which is the red color of the wine, that mixed with the tannins. And if you've got a lot of that in your wine, it will tend to have a lot more, body, if you will, and a lot more chewy characters. Yeah. You put it in your mouth and you say, I want to hold on to this for a little while.
Yeah, most definitely. And the best way I describe that chewy feel is I associate that, and people are going to laugh at me when I say this, and for the people who are not in Texas will understand it, but Whataburger tea. Because I get an unsweet tea from Whataburger, and they put so much tea bags in it that when I drink it, my mouth dries up, and I need something else to drink, because I got to chew through that. Right. And so when I describe that to people, they're like, oh yeah, I've drank Whataburger tea before, and I had the same problem also. And I said, that is what a chewy wine is.
Yeah, and that's the high tannins in the tea.
Yeah.
Because the tea has tannins just like the grapes have tannins.
Yep, and when I tell them that, you see the light bulb literally go off on their heads.
Right, and that's a good comparison too.
Oh, yeah. So, Don, I do appreciate your time allowing us to come here and do this interview. Like I said, Ron suggested me to come here. Y'all had a really great story. I love talking to you. I love hearing your story, how you got here. I can't wait to see what the future holds for you with your distillery coming online pretty soon as well. But man, I can't wait to see your future.
Oh, well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and it's been fun.
Yeah.
I had a good time doing this.
I appreciate that. Well, before we sign off, you know what? I've always do one thing, and I always do wine quotes. And I spent one of a heck of a week. This last 2 weeks have been a heck of a week, and I have no wine quotes. So I may have to record the wine quotes after this.
Yeah, I see.
But
okay.
I'm going to go ahead and hit my sponsors. Sorry, I just kind of caught on the last second. Sorry about that. But I'm going to hit my wine sponsor right quick. So our big sponsor is Texas Wine Lover. So Texas Wine Lover has a really great app out there that allows people to find all the wineries in Texas. And I think you're all, in fact, actually, that's where I found y'all on there.
Yeah, we're on
find out exactly where you're at. But great little app. You can find you can find what kind of wines you're looking for, find a place to stay, find food, stuff like that. So Texas Wine Lover is a great app. You need to download it today. And then also our second sponsor is Old Vine Texas. So Old Vine Texas brings in wine into the North Texas region from the hill country for people who don't want to spend 4 hours in a car. And so he curates some really great hill country wines, and he brings them in and allows people to come and try it. They're in Mansfield, Texas. And so y'all need to go check them out. So, well, Don, again, I appreciate your time, and we're going to go ahead and sign off for the day. And again, I thank you for your time. And this is Will.
And this is Don.
This is We Know Texas Vino. Cheers.